If you sit quietly, without forcing anything, you may notice something subtle. The mind is always trying to shape itself into something. A role, an identity, a memory, an expectation. It wants to be a fixed thing in a world that is constantly flowing. And yet, the moment the mind becomes a fixed shape, suffering begins. Because life does not move in straight lines. Life bends, it dissolves, it reforms, it dies and is born again in every breath. To resist this movement is to resist life itself. To be formless is not a philosophy. It is the nature of reality when unhindered. Most of us walk around with our hearts armored, carrying ideas of who we must be and who others should be. These shapes become prisons. We say we want freedom. We say we want love. But how can love flow into a cup that is already full of itself? Love enters only where there is space. It moves only where there is no resistance. The purest form of love is formless because it cannot be held, possessed, or defined. It cannot be cut into pieces or restrained to satisfy the ego's fear of impermanence. When you are no longer trying to become something, when you are no longer trying to shape others according to your emotional patterns, a new quality of attention emerges. A pure seeing, a clarity that does not come from effort, but from the absence of distortion. You may ask, if I abandon forms, who will I become? The answer is simple. You become what you have always been before the mind's stories began. Awareness itself. The quiet stillness behind all movement. The witness that watches fear come and go, joy come and go. Memories rise and fade like mist in morning light. This awareness is not personal. It is spacious, open, infinite, and untouched. When you operate from this deep center, every action becomes simple, harmonious, and free. Look at your relationships for a moment. Look at the way you love or try to love. Often what we call love is actually a form, a shape created by the mind, a desire for security, validation, continuity. We want to hold the other person tightly because we are afraid, and fear always wants form. It wants control. But love is not control. Love is not the other person living according to your script. Love is not an agreement, a ritual, or a promise carved in stone. Love is fluid, like water. It adapts without losing its nature. It touches everything it encounters without clinging to anything. To truly love someone is to allow them to be what they are without projecting your past onto them. Imagine what relationships would look like if you met the person in front of you as if for the first time, without the accumulated stories your mind repeats. Imagine what communication would feel like if you listened without wanting something from the other. Not agreement, not validation, not familiarity, not comfort. Just listening. Listening without walls. In that state, the heart becomes limitless. When the mind drops its shapes, the shape of the wounded child, the shape of the proud adult, the shape of the one who seeks approval, the shape of the one who wants to control outcomes, something extraordinary happens. You become vast. You discover that you were never the shape, but the space in which the shape appeared. You realize that every identity you have clung to was nothing more than temporary clothing. And the moment you remove these layers, what remains is something astonishingly simple. Presence. This presence is not emotional numbness. It is not indifference. It is a state of deep aliveness. In it, love becomes a natural perfume, not a forced performance. Understanding flows without conflict. And in this formless awareness, you meet life as it is, not as the mind imagines it. Most conflicts, whether internal or external, arise because we insist on meeting the world with hardened shapes. The shape of my opinion, my belief, my fear, my identity, my way. And these shapes collide with the shapes of others, producing friction. But when you are formless, there is nothing to collide with. When you have no psychological armor, interaction becomes effortless. There is no fight, no resistance, no egoic tension, only a natural dance. Think of water. If you strike water, it does not resist. Yet it remains whole. It accommodates the strike, absorbs it, flows around it, and continues its path. Water does not say, "Why did you hit me?" It does not hold a grudge, because it does not store psychological memory. And yet, water can carve through mountains. Its power comes precisely from its formlessness. That is the power of a mind that is uncluttered by the past. Formlessness is not weakness. It is the highest form of strength. The strength of total openness. The strength of silence that cannot be manipulated. The strength of a heart that is unburdened by the need to be right. Only a formless mind can love without agenda. Only a formless heart can understand without judgment. We spend so much time trying to achieve love, to earn love, to negotiate love, as if it is a product of effort. But love blossoms only when the mind is still enough to recognize that every attempt to grasp love is already a movement away from it. Love is here when you stop searching for it. Understanding arises when you stop trying to accumulate knowledge. Truth reveals itself when you stop trying to define it. You cannot love deeply if you are full of fear. And fear arises when the mind clings to form that might be lost. But when you are formless, what can be taken from you? What can hurt you psychologically? What can threaten you when you no longer build yourself out of fragile identities? Imagine meeting every moment with the same freshness a newborn child sees the world with. No categories, no conclusions, no internal commentator narrating every experience. Just direct contact, pure perception. In that state, love is everywhere. Not as romance or sentimentality, but as the natural state of being fully alive. To be formless is to be deeply sensitive. To sense the suffering of another without merging with it. To recognize beauty without wanting to possess it. To see truth without distorting it through personal desire. In formlessness, love is not an emotion but a clarity, a seeing that penetrates to the essence of things. Understanding becomes intuitive, immediate, unconflicted. If you can sit with yourself for 5 minutes without escaping into thoughts, dreams, social media, plans, memories, fantasies, or fears, you will feel something remarkable. A spaciousness, a silence, a gentle power. It is not empty. It is full of a subtle presence. The more you rest in this presence, the more the forms you use to cling to lose their importance. They do not disappear. They simply lose their authority over you. You begin to act, not from conditioning, not from the compulsions of your past, but from a natural intelligence that arises in the moment. That is the beginning of freedom. And freedom is the essence of love. Because love cannot exist where there is fear, and fear cannot exist where there is freedom. When you stop forcing yourself to fit into shapes, you stop forcing others as well. You allow life to unfold without controlling it. You begin to trust the intelligence of existence. You begin to see that everything is always changing, and trying to freeze a moment, a relationship, a belief, or an identity is a movement away from the natural rhythm of life. To be formless is to be one with the flow, to live without psychological resistance, to feel deeply without being overwhelmed, to act without the burden of becoming. In that state, the purest form of love emerges. A love that does not bind, does not demand, does not fear loss, and does not inflate the ego. Such love is gentle like a breeze, yet strong like a river. It is compassionate without effort. It listens without the mind preparing an answer. It sees without the mind projecting a story. It touches without leaving a mark. It is the fragrance of a soul that has returned to its natural nature. If you want deeper understanding in life, in relationships, in yourself, do not try to add more concepts. Do not seek more knowledge, more theories, more philosophies. Instead, remove the obstacles. Drop the shapes. Unlearn. Allow the mind to settle into clarity. When the mind ceases to impose its forms onto reality, what remains is truth. What remains is love. What remains is an awareness that is vast, luminous, and free. And in that state, life is no longer something you struggle with. It becomes something you flow with. This is the invitation of formlessness, a return to the natural state of being, a state in which love is not something you do, but something you are, a state in which understanding is not acquired, but revealed, a state in which you do not seek meaning, you embody it. Remain still for a moment. Breathe. Allow everything to be as it is. Feel the space between your thoughts. That space is your true nature. Rest in it. Live from it. Love from it. In this formless awareness, life becomes simple, beautiful, and whole. And if you can walk through the world in this state of clarity and openness, then you will understand one of the greatest truths ever spoken. When you are formless, you become the purest form of love. And in that love, everything is understood.